Hello, Year 5. This is your big maths lesson for Friday, the 8th of January. So you will need your maths book. You'll need to write big maths as your title and today's date. So we are looking at our CLIC skills today, the same skills as yesterday, but different examples. So if you remember, we were doing counting. In counting, we were looking at reading 6-digit numbers. So have a look at the 6-digit number on the screen and have a go at reading it out loud to yourself or to somebody around you. Okay, that number is 982,037. I think this bit here sometimes trips people up when there was a 0 in the hundreds column, because we want to say hundreds there, but we have to skip straight onto the and for the 37. And so remember, our zero's a placeholder there in the hundreds column. So 982,037. You've got 3 questions just like yesterday to have a go at with this number. So add 70, 7 tens, think about where you need to look. Subtract 2,000, again, think about which column you need to focus on. And round that number to the nearest 10. So think about which 2 multiples of 10 is it in between and which one is it closest to. Have a go at those 3 questions in your maths book. Pause the video and press play again when you're ready to check your answers. Okay, so if I'm adding 70 to my number, I'm looking at the tens column. I've already got 3 tens. So if I'm adding 7 more tens, that's going to make 10 tens, which I know is the same as 100. So instead of putting a 10 in my tens column, I'm going to put 100 and 0 tens. So my number will be 982,107. If I'm subtracting 2,000, I'm looking in the thousands column. I've only got 2 thousands there, so I'll be left with 0 thousands. So my answer is 980,037. And if I'm rounding to the nearest 10, I need to think which 2 multiples of 10 is my number sitting in between. Well, I've got 3 tens, so I know it's sitting between 982,030 and 982,040. I look at my ones to give me a clue. I've got 7 ones, so that tells me to round up. My number is closer to 982,040. So check your answers for those 3 skills. Next in our Learn It's, this week we're practicing these 2 addition Learn It's, and we're trying to get to a point where we see 8 add 3 or 9 add 3 and straight away we know what the answer is. So have a go at practicing these, check if you remember them from yesterday, maybe write down what you think they are in your book, have a little practice. So pause the video just for a few seconds to have a practice of those and press play when you're ready. Okay, so we've got 9 add 3, which equals 12, and 8 add 3, which equals 11. I wonder how you're getting on with remembering those. Okay, so for It's Nothing New today, we are looking at Pom's words, just like yesterday, focusing on the words factor and multiple. Those are 2 important parts of our maths vocabulary. So the first question says, which of these are multiples of 8? How do you know? So think about what that word multiple means. We're thinking about numbers in the 8 times table, numbers that have, well, 8 has been multiplied a certain number of times, numbers that are divisible by 8 with no remainders. So have a look at those numbers and think, do any of those stand out to you as definitely being multiples of 8 or definitely not being multiples of 8? Record this in your book and try to explain how you know. So you might write and list the numbers that are multiples of 8 and say, I know this because. You might list the numbers that are not multiples of 8 and explain how you know. So have a go in your book at jotting down which ones you think are multiples of 8, which ones aren't, and what your reasons are. So pause the video and play when you're ready. Okay, let's go through those numbers. We're deciding whether they are multiples of 8. So my first one is 880. Well, I know 88 is a multiple of 8 because it's 11 times 8. And this number is 10 times bigger. So this must be 110 times 8. So it is a multiple of 8. This number here, 55. Well, I know that 56 is a multiple of 8 because 7 times 8 is 56. So 55 can't be. It's too close. Okay, 72. Well, in fact, I'll cross out 56 for you to make that clear. Or 55, sorry. Okay, 72, I know is a multiple of 8. It's in my 8 times table. It is 9 times 8. 1,600, you may have noticed the 16 jumping out at you there. So we've got 8 times 2 is 16. This is 100 times bigger, so it must be 200 times 8. And then 17, not a multiple of 8. I know 16 is, so 17 can't be because it's just one more. Okay, so we've looked at multiples. Let's look at factors now. So this says find all the factors of 28. So remember that factors are numbers that multiply together to give the product 28, numbers I can divide 28 by equally with no remainders, okay? So remember our strategy for finding factors. You might draw a line in your book and then you might start to write the factor pairs. And if you get to a number that is not a factor of 28, you can put a cross, okay? So just take a moment to have a go at that in your book, pause the video and press play when you're ready. Okay. So find all the factors of 28. I already showed you 1 and 28 are both factors of 28. You may then have carried on with that method and decided whether 2 was a factor of 28. Well, it's an even number, so it must be. So then I halve 28 to find 2 times 14 makes 28. I then looked at the number 3 and decided that wasn't a factor of 28. And then the number 4, which multiplies by 7 to make 28. So the factors of 28 are 1, 2, 4, 7, and 28. So check yours, see if you got all of those factors as well. Okay, our calculation skill today then is the same as yesterday. We have got a subtraction calculation and an addition calculation, both of which use the column method, the written method for addition and subtraction. Notice which one is which. This is a subtraction, this is an addition. You're going to have a go at those in your books, in your maths books. Make sure you copy down the numbers exactly and put them in your squares so that they're lined up evenly in columns. Start in the ones column and work your way across. Remember not to swap any numbers over. If you don't have enough, you can regroup from the next column. And when you're adding, if you've got more than 10 in a particular column, you know that you can regroup that into the next column over. So have a go at those two calculations, pause the video while you're doing that and press play when you're ready to check the answer. Okay, so let's start with the subtraction then. So in the ones column, I've got 5 ones take away 9 ones. Now I can't do that without going into negative numbers. So I'm going to look at the tens column. I'm going to regroup one of these tens, making 7 left. And that will make 15 in my ones column. 15 ones take away 9, okay? Which I can do, and that leaves me with 6 ones. In my tens column, I've now got 7 take away 4, which leaves me with 3 tens. In my hundreds column, I've got 6 hundreds take away 7 hundreds. I can't do that without going into negative numbers. So I'm going to look at the thousands column and regroup 1,000 into my hundreds column, which makes 10 hundreds. So I've now got 16 hundreds, subtract 7 hundreds, which gives me 9 hundreds. And then in my thousands column, I've got 4 thousands take away 4,000, which equals 0. Okay, so you may have written 0 in there, or you may have just left it blank. We've got 936. If your number is larger than 5,685, if you've got something around the 10,000 mark, it might be that you added it instead of taking away. But if you've got that answer correct, then you have calculated correctly. If it's close but not quite, it might be that you didn't do your regrouping or you made some mistakes in your calculation. So just check your answers and check if you can understand where you've gone wrong if you have. Okay, the addition calculation, again, we're starting in the ones. I've got 9 ones, add 3 ones, which gives me 12 ones. So I put my 2 in my ones column and then my 10 in my tens column. 6 tens, add 7 tens, gives me 13 tens. Add 1 more, gives me 14 tens. I put my 4 in my tens column and my 10 tens in my hundreds column as 100. 5 hundreds add 6 hundreds is 11 hundreds. Add 1 more hundred underneath here, gives me 12 hundreds. So I again put my 2 in my hundreds column and my 1 in my thousands column. And then I've got 7 thousands, add no thousands, but then I have got 1 more underneath here. So that gives me 8 thousands. So I've got 8,242. Make sure you've checked your answers to our CLIC skills today. If there's anything that you're finding difficult or you're unsure why you might have come to a particular answer, or perhaps maybe Mrs. Hardy's made a mistake and you want to tell me about it, as often happens, please do send a message on Class Dojo or upload your work with a question and one of us will get back to you. Have a lovely day, Year 5. Lovely to talk to you again. And I will see you again online very soon.